So right now, it is time to go over Chapter 11 out of our lovely book on the Science of Being Well by Wallace D. Wattles. And before we get started, there's something I want to share with you. It's a quote by Socrates, and he says, "Don't waste your energies on fighting the old. Instead, use them on creating the new." Likewise, if there is something that you're trying to change with yourself, there's a habit you have that you're trying to get rid of, don't waste your time fighting those old habits, okay? Instead, spend the time creating the new ones. Spend time creating new ones. Okay, so with that being said, let's get started on this chapter, shall we? So Chapter 11, How to Eat. It is a settled fact that a person naturally chooses food. The few faddists who maintain that we should bolt our nourishment after the manner of the dog and others of the lower animals can no longer get a hearing. We know that we should chew our food, and if it is natural that we should chew our food, the more thoroughly we chew it, then the more completely natural the process must be. If you will chew every mouthful to a liquid, you will not need to be the least concerned as to what you eat, for you can get sufficient nourishment out of any ordinary food. And I know I was going over this in the last video on how when it gets to this part I can't completely agree with everything that he was saying. We also need to take into consideration the actual year that this book was written in. This book was written over 100 years ago. 100 years ago, nutrition was way different. People were a lot healthier. It wasn't fast food like there is now. People would actually cook for themselves. It's the average person of nowadays, when it comes to size-wise, I remember seeing a video a while ago. It was like back in 1920. The fattest person in the world. Okay, the fattest person in the world 100 years ago is like the size of the average person now. Okay, and that's not good, and that is very, very sad. We actually gone over things like this out of our books when we were going to school for fitness training, that how the population, like 80% of the population is overweight, and that's just in America alone. Imagine in all the other countries as well. America alone throws enough food away to feed the entire world. That's how much food America themselves waste. Because all the food that we waste, they could be being fed to everywhere else on the planet. Okay, there is no lack of supply. And that is sad, if you ask me, that things are like that. Whether or not this chewing shall be an irksome and laborious task or the most enjoyable process depends upon the mental attitude in which you come to the table. If your mind and attitude are on other things, or if you are anxious or worried about business or domestic affairs, you will find it almost impossible to eat without bolting more or less of your food. Basically saying, if you're eating while you have something else in your mind, you're not going to chew your food to the fullest, as much as it needs to be chewed. Because when we're chewing, we're supposed to chew our foods down to where it's easily digestible through our system. Okay, when you chew it just a little bit and you're swallowing it in holes, it's going to be a lot harder on your digestive system, and your digestive system needs to do that much more work in order to get that chunks of food down into wasteful form. Okay, and that's when you do what you do to use the restroom. You must learn to live so scientifically that you will have no business or domestic cares to worry about. This you can do, and you can also learn to give your undivided attention to the fact of eating while at the table. When you eat, do so with an eye single to the purpose of getting all the enjoyment you can from the meal. Dismiss everything else from your mind, and do not let anything take your attention from the food and its taste until your meal is finished. Be cheerfully confident, for if you follow these instructions, you may know that the food you eat is exactly the right food, and that it will agree with you to perfection. Basically saying, enjoy your food. Don't bolt through it. Enjoy it. Some people don't have that, so enjoy it. Sit down to the table with confident cheerfulness, and take a moderate portion of the food. Take whatever things look most desirable to you. Do not select some food because you think it will be good for you. Select that which will taste good to you. And that again, like I said, looking at the time of how things are now compared to how they were back then, there's a lot more unhealthier foods nowadays, okay? And all these unhealthy foods are made to taste very, very good, okay? To keep you wanting more, to keep you eating more, to keep you gaining more weight, especially if you're living a sedentary lifestyle. Nowadays, it's a literally fight. We're fighting for our lives. Literally, we have to go to work. We're all working for money. Okay, we're all meeting the status quo of society. We all pay taxes. Okay, we all do this and all do that. Okay, but not all of us are doing what's necessary to take care of ourselves. Okay, not all of us are doing the things that are necessary for us to actually live the fullest that we can live, to the most abundant that we can live with what is resources that have been given to us from the externals. Okay, your health is very, very important. Okay, remember, you're made of 26 trillion something cells. Okay, and each and every single one of these cells rebuild themselves off of every single thing you put into it. Okay, so it is very, very important with what we eat. Okay, where were we? If you are to get well and stay well, you must drop the idea of doing things because they are good for your health, and do things because you want to do them. Select the food you want most. Gratefully give thanks to God that you have learned how to eat it in such a way that digestion shall be perfect, and take a moderate mouthful of it. Do not fix your attention on the act of chewing. Fix it on the taste of the food, and taste and enjoy it until it is reduced to the liquid state and passes down your throat by involuntary swallowing. No matter how long it takes, do not think of the time. Think of the taste. Do not allow your eye to wander over the table, speculating as to what you shall eat next. Do not worry for fear there is not enough, and that you will not get your share of everything. Do not anticipate the taste of the next thing. Keep your mind centered on the taste of what you have in your mouth, and that is all of it. Okay, and there's one thing I want to add to that too. Not all of us have the time to just sit there and chew our food. Okay, I understand that. I don't always have the time to do that. Okay, especially when I'm there training my clients. I only get a 5-minute break between each client. Okay, sometimes not even. Okay, 5-minute break between every other client. Okay, so every 2 clients I train, I get a short 5 minutes. Okay, I can't eat a full meal in 5 minutes. Okay, I'm lucky enough to eat 3/4 of, or 1/4 of my meal in that 5 minutes. Okay, it's understandable that not everybody has the time to actually sit down and chew all of their food in the liquid state. Okay, but in that moment that we do, let's try to do that and enjoy what we have. Okay, but if we don't have that time, that's understandable for all of us. Okay, because not everyone does. Time really is of the essence, especially now. I don't want to say nowadays because I don't think it's that much different than how it was before, but especially out here in the West, a lot of people are working 2 jobs. Some people are working as much as 3 jobs. Okay, we don't have a whole lot of time, especially out here in this area, trying to make that money, meeting the status quo of society. We're all in this together, and we're all fighting for our lives. Okay, instead of competing with each other, let's get together and create. That's what we were born to do. Do not anticipate the taste of the next thing. Keep your mind centered on the taste of what you have in your mouth, and that is all of it. Scientific and healthful eating is a delightful process after you have learned how to do it, and after you have overcome the bad old habit of gobbling down your food unchewed. It is best not to have too much conversation going on while eating. Be cheerful, but not talkative. Do the talking afterward. In most cases, some use of the will is required to form the habit of correct eating. The bolting habit is an unnatural one, and is without doubt mostly the result of fear. Fear that we will be robbed of our food, fear that we will not get our share of the good things, fear that we will lose precious time. These are the causes of haste. That makes a lot of sense, especially when he puts it in that way. The next book that I'm going to be reading is my favorite book written by him. It's called The Science of Being Great, and he talks about that. Worry and habit. I think that's actually what the chapter is called, Worry and Habit. Or maybe just a portion of that chapter. But he talks about when you're in a state of worry, that's a manifestation of fear. Because you're worried about something. You're fearful that something may happen. Something that might happen. That may not ever happen. That doesn't need to happen. That need not be to happen. Okay? There's something I want to share with you guys. Okay? This book, I know I'm talking about it all the time, by Charles F. Hannell. The first book I read from him, by far my favorite. Okay? In this book, I was reading it yesterday, last night, after I made videos on this one, and he was talking about the psychic element. The psychic element. God, consciousness, mind, mental processes. God is mind. God is mental. The whole entire universe is mental. Okay? The physical side of this universe is simply the manifestation of this entire mental realm. Okay? That is how God individualizes himself in specific forms through the physical aspect of our life. But the spiritual side is a whole mental side, okay, and then the physical side is the whole material side. This is the side where he manifests himself in form, okay, and this is the side where he forever rests in his subtle state of being. This psychic element, the element in which all things live and move and have their being, how they say in metaphysics. Okay, and this psychic element comes from how he put the sun, okay, because the sun is nothing but a huge ball of electromagnetic energy, okay, huge ball of electromagnetic plasma, and we learn that everything material is made out of electromagnetism, okay, made out of electricity, held together by magnetism, okay, and the power behind all of that is the mind, intelligence. Just some food for thought, because we were talking about the emotions in that chapter, and how emotions are subjective or subconscious faculty. It comes from within. Okay, let's continue. Then there is anticipation of the dainties that are to come for dessert, and the consequent desire to get at them as quickly as possible. And there is mental abstraction, or thinking of other matters while eating. All these must be overcome. Focus on your food. If you find that your mind is wandering, call a halt. Think for a moment of the food and how good it tastes, of the perfect digestion and assimilation that are going to follow the meal, and begin again. Now remember how he's saying the use of the will is to keep our thoughts held on one purpose for a steady amount of time. You're suggesting it. You're constantly suggesting it to yourself, and as it becomes more and more habitual, as you build those neural pathways inside your brain, that becomes your habitual way of thinking. It becomes a form of auto-suggestion. You automatically think it like that, okay? There's no will on your part. There's no conscious effort on your part. It's something that you just do automatically. Begin again and again, though you must do so 20 times in the course of a single meal, and again, though you must do so every meal for weeks and months. It is perfectly certain that you can form the, quote, Fletcher habit, end quote, if you persevere. And when you have formed it, you will experience a healthful pleasure you have never known in enjoying your food. This is a vital point, and I must not leave it until I have thoroughly impressed it upon your mind. Given the right materials, perfectly prepared, the principle of health will positively build you a perfectly healthy body, and you cannot prepare the materials perfectly in any other way than the one I am describing. If you are to have perfect health, you must eat in just a way. You can, and the doing of it is only a matter of a little perseverance. What use for you to walk of mental control unless you will govern yourself in so simple a matter in ceasing to bolt your food? What use to talk of concentration unless you can keep your mind on the act of eating for so short a space as 15 or 20 minutes, especially with all the pleasures of taste to help you? Go on and conquer. In a few weeks or months, as the case may be. You will find the habit of scientific eating becoming fixed, and soon you will be in it so splendid in condition, mentally and physically, that nothing would induce you to return to the bad old way. We have seen that if a man will think only thoughts of perfect health, his internal functions will be performed in a healthy manner. And we have seen that in order to think thoughts of health, man must perform the voluntary functions in a healthy manner. Basically saying right there, what we've been going over this whole time, not only must you think positive and think healthy, you must take the necessary actions to make that health a requirement in your life. You must eat right. You must eat the right foods, drink the right water, tons and tons of water, orange juice, juices, cranberry juice, things that are good for you. No soda with 50 grams of sugar. That's not good for you. That's how people get diabetes. Yeah, and when they're not, exercising. The most important of the voluntary functions is that of eating, and we see, so far, no special difficulty in eating in a perfectly healthy way. I will here summarize the instructions as to when to eat, what to eat, and how to eat, with the reasons therefor. Never eat until you have earned hunger, no matter how long you go without food. Now, remember how he was talking about the subconscious faculties, okay? When you are hungry, that is the mind of the infinite, okay? Remember, your subconscious mind is the same mind in kindness and quality as the universal mind, okay? It's the exact same, okay? It is your portion of the universal mind built and stored within you, okay? So, when you are hungry, your subconscious mind is telling you that you need to eat so they could build more cell material to keep this body alive, okay? That is hunger. This is based on the fact that whenever food is needed in the system, if there is power to digest it, the subconscious mind announces the need by the sensation of hunger. Learn to distinguish between genuine hunger and the gnawing and craving sensations caused by unnatural appetite. Hunger is never a disagreeable feeling, accompanied by weakness, faintness, or gnawing feelings at the stomach. It is a pleasant, anticipatory desire for food, and is felt mostly in the mouth and throat. When you're thinking about food, your mouth begins to water. That's funny. I want to actually share something with you. I can't remember who did this experiment, but he's talking about spiritual sensation, okay? Imagine you're sucking on a lemon, okay? A sweet and sour, juicy lemon, okay? Imagine tasting that lemon. You take a bite in that lemon. Look and see what your tongue is doing, okay? Your tongue starts to salivate. It starts to get a little bit tingly, getting prepared for that taste for the lemon, okay? But you're only imagining it, okay? That imagination is known as a spiritual subjective process, okay? When you're imagining the food, you could almost taste that lemon, okay? That is why your tongue begins to water, because it's kind of your mind begins to anticipate it, even though there's no actual lemon in front of you. Now that is one power of your mind, being able to feel the sensation of something there that may not exactly be there yet. Amazing. Okay. It does not come at certain hours or at stated intervals. It only comes when the body is ready to receive, digest, and assimilate food. Excuse me, sorry. Eat your food with cheerful confidence. And get all the pleasure that is to be had from the taste of every mouthful. Chew each morsel to a liquid, keeping your attention fixed on the enjoyment of the process. This is the only way to eat in a perfectly complete and successful manner. And when anything is done in a completely successful manner, the general result cannot be a failure. In the attainment of health, the law is the same as in the attainment of riches. If you make each act a success in itself, the sum of all your acts must be a success. When you eat in the mental attitude I have described, and in the manner I have described, nothing can be added to the process. It is done in a perfect manner, and it is successfully done. And if eating is successfully done, digestion, assimilation, and the building of a healthy body are successfully begun. We next take up the question of the quantity of food required. And that will be the end of Chapter 11, The Science of Being Well. And that chapter is called How to Eat. We will end it right there. And if you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching this with me. And that being said, I'll see you on the other side of the galaxy. Take care. And before we end, I'm not too sure if I dated this, so we'll do that right now. Today's the 16th of June. It's on Thursday, and right now it is 12:12. So, that being said, it's time for this guy to go hit the gym and then get to work. I'll see you when I see you.